Steven Spielberg has consistently pushed the boundaries of movie making with almost every single one of his releases. You're allowed to think the iconic director is a bit overrated, and you are perfectly entitled to that wrong opinion. But with his ability to bring dinosaurs and aliens to the big screen in imaginative ways, to his more grounded human stories giving actors some of their career best performances, Spielberg's phenomenal filmography is one that we can all proudly look back at in awe. Spielberg worked as a writer and director for hire after dropping out of film school in 1968, with his first credit in the 1969 pilot of the show Night Gallery. After building a solid TV directing resume on shows like Columbo, The Psychiatrist, and Marcus Welby, MD, he got the chance to direct a TV film, which became Duel, which followed a salesman who suddenly becomes pursued by a relentless truck driver, impressed TV audiences and execs enough that Spielberg was allowed to shoot more scenes to expand it into a theatrical cut. After shooting a few more TV movies post-Duel, he got to direct The Sugarland Express for Universal Pictures. The film starred Goldie Hawn and William Atherton as two criminals who take a police officer hostage on a drive through Texas to retrieve their child before he is put in foster care. The film wasn't a huge box office smash upon release, but critics praised the filmmaking on display, performances, exciting car chase scenes and the more gritty take on a road movie. Spielberg still proved himself well enough to producers Robert Zanuck and David Brown with Sugarland Express that they began work on their next collaboration, Jaws. Production on this classic thriller quickly ballooned over budget, to the point where the film crew gave the production the nickname, Flaws, due to things constantly going wrong. Spielberg confessed that he thought he tanked his career after shooting the film. No one had ever taken a film 100 days over schedule. The main source of production issues was the young director's insistence that they film not in a more controlled water tank, but out in the ocean. This added to the realism of the film, but caused plenty of headaches for the people actually on set shooting. A fun fact from the set is that the prop sharks were named Bruce, after Spielberg's lawyer Bruce Raymer. A crew of 40 technicians made these 3 pneumatically powered sharks, supervised by Bob Matty, who created the giant squid in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Spielberg made Close Encounters of the Third Kind for Columbia Pictures, with the initial concept being inspired by a memory of watching a meteor shower in New Jersey with his father. While he set out to do a more reasonable production after the harrowing experience making Jaws, he later joked in Steven Spielberg, a biography by Joseph McBride, that it ended up twice as bad and twice as expensive. 1941 is a hidden gem from Spielberg's catalog, a World War II comedy involving a panic caused in Los Angeles following the Pearl Harbor attacks. It had a stellar cast of Dan Aykroyd, Christopher Lee, John Belushi, and Toshiro Mifune in one of his few American film roles. Spielberg also recalled that John Wayne tried to get him to stop making the movie because he viewed it as unpatriotic. Spielberg and George Lucas became friends around the late 60s, enjoying camaraderie with other young directors at the time like Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, and Brian De Palma. The two later became creative partners as they began working on the Indiana Jones film series together, with Spielberg as director and Lucas as story writer and executive producer. Spielberg and crew started shooting Raiders of the Lost Ark in June of 1980. Filming stretched all over the world, with locations including Hawaii, La Rochelle, Tunisia, and studio shoots at Elstree Studios where things like these gorgeous miniature displays were built. The director returned to sci-fi for this drama about an extraterrestrial friendship that is still emotional to this day. Spielberg decided to shoot the film chronologically, unusual for Hollywood productions, which helped the child actors stay invested in the beats of the story without doing it out of order. Carlo Rambaldi, the special effects artist behind the aliens of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, returned to create the E.T. puppet. His signature extending neck was inspired by Rambaldi's own surreal painting known as Women of Delta. The face was also said to be inspired by Ernest Hemingway, Albert Einstein, and Carl Sandburg. Spielberg took on a much more grounded drama when he helmed the adaptation of Alice Walker's The Color Purple. The film was a great success, with particular praise going to Whoopi Goldberg, Oprah Winfrey, and Margaret Avery's performances. Some critics dinged the move for softening some key moments from the book, and questioned whether Spielberg was the right choice of a director over a black filmmaker. At the 57th Oscars, Spielberg's film Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom was nominated for Best Original Score and Best Visual Effects. However, he'd already been personally nominated for 3 Best Director trophies and 1 Best Picture award in prior ceremonies. Here's Spielberg with Short Round himself, Ke Huy Quan. Not only did he have a huge role in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, but Quan also starred in The Goonies, which was based on an original story by the director. Spielberg continued to make challenging dramas with war film Empire of the Sun, following a boy who becomes a prisoner in a Japanese internment camp. Spielberg shot another globetrotting adventure with Indy in 1988. The film went through extensive rewrites with early drafts being completely different from what we saw today. Spielberg reportedly suggested that Indiana Jones' father be introduced to add a new character dynamic, which ended up working wonders for the finished product as Harrison Ford and Sean Connery worked very well together. Hook became another troubled production after going 40 days past its schedule. Though it still has some incredible moments and great performances, it debuted to mixed reviews that knocked its script. Spielberg has expressed some disappointment with the film in the past, saying, "I'm a little less proud of the Neverland sequences because I'm uncomfortable with that highly stylized world." Spielberg and actress Kate Capshaw met while making Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, getting married later in October of 1991. The two have 5 children together. One of Spielberg's most praised achievements is, of course, the Michael Crichton adaptation of Jurassic Park. 4 studios put down offers for the film rights before the book even came out, and Crichton went with Universal Pictures and Spielberg. It's pretty wild that 2 of the best Spielberg movies came out in 1993, Jurassic Park and the historical epic Schindler's List. Spielberg won Best Director and Best Picture alongside other producers of the film. The film also swept in other categories including Best Cinematography, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Original Score, and Best Editing. Spielberg is notoriously prolific when it comes to directing projects, but he took a hiatus from production after working on Schindler's List. He would still direct for other studios, but Spielberg joined David Geffen and Jeffrey Katzenberg in founding DreamWorks to have the option for more creative control over every part of the making of his films. This was the first film Spielberg shot for his studio DreamWorks, and the fledgling studio's second ever film in general, being edged out by Mimi Letter's action thriller The Peacemaker. Spielberg's war drama is one of the greatest and most harrowing World War II films ever made. Like E.T., he decided to shoot this film in chronological order, and later reflected, "I didn't realize how devastating that was going to be for the whole cast to actually start off with Omaha Beach and survive that as a film team." Spielberg rightly took home the Best Director prize at the 71st Academy Awards for Saving Private Ryan. Since then, he hasn't won any, but has garnered a stunning total of 22 Oscar nominations over the years. The Road to El Dorado was the 3rd animated film from DreamWorks Animations. The film has gained cult status despite underperforming at the box office, and DreamWorks would later have an animated mega-hit on their hands with Shrek in 2001. Spielberg and Hanks collaborated on this epic World War II miniseries for HBO, co-creating the show with Hanks in the director chair. They won the award for Best Miniseries at the Primetime Emmy Awards that year, with Hanks also winning Best Director. Spielberg re-enrolled in California State University Long Beach in 2002 after dropping out over 30 years ago to begin directing professionally. He said in a statement he wanted to finish his degree, as a thank you to my parents for giving me the opportunity for an education and a career, and as a personal note for my own family, and young people everywhere, about the importance of achieving their college education goals. Spielberg's adaptation of the Philip K. Dick short story Minority Report was a long time coming after the story was first optioned in 1992. When it released in 2002, Minority Report was a smash hit with its slick visual effects, relentless action, and great performances by Tom Cruise and Colin Farrell. 2002 was a great year for Spielberg, with the crime-comedy drama Catch Me If You Can coming out to positive reception. This is one of the best performances from Leonardo DiCaprio's early filmography as well, stepping effortlessly into the part of teenage con artist Frank Abagnale Jr. By this year, Spielberg had directed 21 films and overseen even more as a producer and studio head. Looking back from 2003, you can already see an impressive variety of genre, scale, and tone in his movies. The Terminal, starring Tom Cruise and Catherine Zeta-Jones, is about an Eastern European man who becomes stuck in an airport because the US won't let him in, and his country starts going through a military coup that prevents him from returning. Spielberg couldn't find an actual airport to shoot the movie in, so they constructed a massive mock JFK set in an airplane hangar. The director's second collaboration with Tom Cruise in War of the Worlds was a massive sci-fi story, adapting H.G. Wells' classic alien invasion novel from 1898. They haven't made a movie together since, but this is a film permanently entrenched as a great of the genre. Munich was one of his lowest-grossing films at the box office, but was still lauded as a solid political thriller and amassed 5 Oscar nominations. Spielberg is mostly a director, but he is also credited as a producer on several of his films with producer credits on other projects as well. One standout producer credit is the 2004 epic drama Memoirs of a Geisha. He has also produced films by J.J. Abrams, Clint Eastwood, and upcoming film Maestro, directed by Bradley Cooper. Spielberg and Kennedy have a creative partnership going back years as co-founders of the production company Amblin Entertainment. They met when Kennedy was working as John Milius' assistant on the set of 1941, and Kennedy produced every Spielberg film since E.T. after a couple of years of working as his secretary and on-set associate. Along with continuing to work as a producer, Kennedy has been the president of Lucasfilm since 2012. John Williams has composed the soundtracks for all but 5 of Spielberg's films, and some of those rousing themes have certainly elevated the films from incredible to legendary. Alongside old friends Francis Ford Coppola and George Lucas, Spielberg was one of the presenters of Martin Scorsese's first, and so far only, Oscar for his directing work on The Departed. Spielberg, Ford, and Lucas returned to the Indiana Jones world again for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Spielberg spoke with Vanity Fair about the challenges of returning to an old style. "I had to approximate this younger director's look that I thought I had moved away from after almost 2 decades, he reflected. There are some perks to founding the studio that made Shrek, like getting to visit Shrek the Musical as a birthday celebration. Spielberg joined former Microsoft executive Don Mattrick at E3 to tease Project Natal, which would eventually become their motion-sensing accessory Kinect. Spielberg is an avid gamer and has even dipped his toes into game design, creating the initial design for the Medal of Honor shooter series. Spielberg has helmed a ton of pictures focused on World War II, but his adaptation of the novel War Horse was his first look at World War I. The film's production ambition was impressive, with well-designed sets and some huge battle sequences sometimes involving as many as 200 real horses. Spielberg's only animated feature film directing credit was this adaptation of the incredible Tintin comic book series by the French writer Hergé. Spielberg and Hergé were fans of each other's work, and the director eventually got to bring a feature film vision of a Tintin story to life with the help of Peter Jackson as a producer. Spielberg and Day-Lewis had just collaborated on the historical drama Lincoln, which is considered a highlight in both of their careers. Day-Lewis won the Best Actor Oscar for this role, but initially turned down the part when it was being developed in 2003. Spielberg was the president of the jury for the main feature film competition of the 66th Cannes Film Festival. The Palme d'Or winner that year was the romantic drama Blue is the Warmest Color, and other highlights from the competition were Nebraska, Inside Llewyn Davis, and The Past. Making Bridge of Spies added another historical drama to his resume, with this one focusing on a 1960 prisoner exchange between the US and Soviet Union. This was a unique collaboration between Spielberg and the Coen brothers, with the brothers credited as screenwriters on the film along with Matt Charman. Rylance won the Best Supporting Actor and BAFTA awards for his performance in Bridge of Spies. They also collaborated in Spielberg's next film, the Roald Dahl adaptation The BFG. Yep, Rylance was the giant. Here's the director shooting his acclaimed historical thriller film The Post while it was known as The Papers. The film had a star-studded cast featuring Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep, Sarah Paulson, and Bob Odenkirk. This was Streep's first starring role in a Spielberg film, though she had a small voice part in AI Artificial Intelligence. Spielberg crafted yet another visually stunning blockbuster with sci-fi film Ready Player One. With a dilapidated, dystopian world and a huge VR universe most of its residents stayed plugged into, a massive amount of visual effects were required to fully realize this project.